Vox and Hops Brutal North America is brought to you by Indie Merch Store. I'm not afraid of hearing the words no anymore.
Yeah.
I'd rather ask and get that thought out of my head than have it sit there and be afraid to ask.
Yeah. But don't take no. Sit with no. Wait 6 months and hit him again. Because your entire life can change in 6 months.
That's wise.
You can almost conceive and have another child in 6 months. Close. Maybe you didn't know you were pregnant and you found out 2 months in and shit, I have a kid now and I want to do this show, or think of what can change in 6 months.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you've been having a glorious week so far. I most certainly have been, because Brutal North America is in full swing. It's coming at you. 23 unique craft beers which have been brewed by metal breweries will be dropping from June 21st to the 25th for Vox and Hops alumni. That's right, the past guests of the podcast. Unique band collabs which have been curated by myself. I think this is amazing. I'm so stoked about this. Get ready, because Brutal North America is coming at you, people. Before we jump into this episode, I would just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm also asking you to rate it and write a review. Why do I want you to rate and write a review? That's because when people are looking to find a new podcast, what do? They scroll down, they check out the reviews, and if those reviews reflect their values positively, they will most probably give that podcast a chance. People's time is precious, so when selecting a new podcast to dive into, those reviews really help sway people's decisions. So if you write a review for the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, you could actually be the person that turns someone else into a Vox and Hops head. And that would be something that I would truly, truly appreciate. Now, in today's episode, I'm with Dewey Halpaus of the Pure Pleasure Podcast. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 269.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Oh, look at that. Host allows you to record the meeting. Okay. So then, oh, there we go. Cool.
Perfect.
I'll put this up on mine too, because I've been doing the video and the premium stuff like right away usually. But yeah, sweet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, I was definitely going to ask you about the premium.
Yeah, dude.
I've been thinking about it.
Do you have, I'm sure you don't have a Cryptopsy mic box there, but like that would be amazing if you started using that. I've been wondering, did you make that yourself or have it made?
This thing? Oh, yeah. It's just a silly little sticker that we stuck on. I got this made.
That's rad.
My wife is the producer of the podcast, and I was my first time doing like a bunch of press at Heavy Montreal, which is now presenting a bunch of my podcast episodes.
Yeah.
She was like, no, you gotta get a mic flag. You can't just go backstage and not have a mic flag and present yourself properly. So Jessica is amazing for stuff like that. So the small little details, and it works. And I go to bars. So I used to do it at bars, and it looks a little bit more professional. So
okay, it looks great. I just didn't know where they came from. Like I was looking up, like how do you even get these things? I guess you can just make it yourself.
That's exactly.
I thought it was like a legitimate thing, like you had to buy it and have it printed and all this stuff. Like I've never
it's
used
super
one.
cheap. Yeah,
That's awesome.
You can get them for those size mics too, because we've been thinking of upping. Because Vox and Hops was a remote thing where I would never do it like this. It was always supposed to be backstage in a tour bus at a bar. That was Vox and Hops, and I would never even imagine doing it remotely because I felt like there'd be no connection. So I would have never, that's why we're just thinking now. I just bought a charger for my Zoom 2 weeks ago.
Is that the H4n?
Yeah, I've been plowing through batteries this whole pandemic. It cost $20 for the charger. I really.
Yeah.
So this is where my mindset is. Like now we're realizing, okay, I guess this is going to stick around for a while, so we may as well invest.
So you've been doing this 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, right?
That's correct. 2018, October.
How many
2018.
episodes are you putting out a week?
I drop 2 episodes a week, sometimes 3. I put out about 11 episodes a month.
Because the last episode I heard of your show was the Corpse Grinder episode, and it was like episode 240 something or something like that. And I was like, but you've been doing it 2 years. So I was like, wait a minute, what? Because I was like, I'm on 213, 213, and I've been doing almost like 4.5.
Yeah, you started in 2016.
Yeah, I'll do like blasts of like 10 episodes in like 10 days, or like, and then like one a week usually. But we've been putting out 2 a week the last couple of weeks just because we have so much in the can.
It's crazy. But, what a time to be a podcaster. Who would have thought that a pandemic would help our podcast so much?
Yes, that's the thing. Like that's weird about it is, I don't know how much you look into podcast numbers and stuff and like trends. I don't. But when the pandemic hit, I was curious about it. So I looked into it, and it showed that like podcast content went up, but listenership dropped because no one commuted anymore.
Yes.
So that morning commute, afternoon commute where people would listen, they were doing other things. And that took a major hit to the actual listenership. But everyone and their brother started a podcast during the pandemic. That's true. And most of them have stopped now, I think.
That is also true.
I equate the podcast thing to like gym memberships where they'll start and then like 2 months later, they're like, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
So if you want to start a podcast, wait till March, just like you would joining a gym.
I've been looking into exactly how long each episode takes me. And I think it's somewhere from start to finish, like me reaching out to a guest or a publicist hitting me up about a guest to finishing, finish my last post for it is about 6.5, 7 hours of work. Easily. Wow.
That's insane.
Easily.
You're doing 2 of those a week?
Yeah.
Dude.
It's a passion. I love it. I love it so much.
I do too. I guess I don't edit at all. So like I always like, I was shocked when we scheduled this so far out. Cause I was like, okay, like I'll put on the calendar, like that's way out there, like months out there. I usually book the next week and maybe the week after. See, like I just had Morgan from Kitty on.
Oh yeah, she rules.
And yeah, she's great. She's such a good guest. But she's like, how about mid-April? And this was in like end of February or end of March. And I was like, okay, I guess we can put it on the calendar for then. Great. And that was the first time I've like scheduled something out. Someone was like, okay, next week's open. All right. And I reach out to all the people I'm in talks with. And I'm like, how about Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. And we'll set them up and just knock them down. But if I go look further out than that, it weirds me out. I don't know what it is. Like I can't commit that far out to like multiple things. Like with this, what we're doing, that was one thing. It's like, yeah, absolutely. We'll do it on that date. But if I have like multiple stuff, like every week that far out, it makes me feel like I'm in a box. Like I can't schedule other things. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. Like,
I think it's easy with the pandemic because we can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That works for me now, but it's crazy. I'm like, I totally get what I have to stop booking because people ask to be on the show. I'm like, I'm available the last week of August is basically where I'm booking now. It's insane. I can't, I have to stop booking. But I feel very, very worried that I'm going to run out of content for some reason. At least I did, not anymore, because obviously I have everything stacked the way I do. And I sort of go with like projects, which helps me, like Sober February. I wanted to talk to a whole bunch of artists and people in the industry that are sober or are recovering. So that was something that I planned like months in advance. And from there, and now I'm working on a huge project for June. So that really just like stacks me a few months in advance always. So I guess for a while, especially at the beginning when I had the podcast, I was chasing content. I hated that. So I much rather have a stacked calendar.
Sure, I agree.
Finding balance is something that I've really been pushing myself to do.
Me too. Like if you say everyone canceled from here to August after today, how many podcasts would you be able to release?
Like how many do I have recorded?
Yeah.
I probably have about a month and a half's content, I think.
Okay, cool. So you're not in dire straits. That's gonna feel good.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
I love that. And now I'm at the point where I can do less. I only record episodes twice a week now, which is something that is very refreshing. And it gives me time to, right when I slowed down is when I took on a whole bunch of other things for the big project I'm launching in June called Brutal North America, where I pair metal breweries with Vox and Hops alumni, the past guests of the podcast, to create killer collabs for their bands. Right now, as of right now, I have 22 collabs coming out the last week of June with 22 breweries all over North America. And I'm hoping to get 24 because here in Canada, we sell beer in a 2-4. We call it a 2-4. So I want to hit 24. It's going to happen. I'm still hustling to get a few, but it's really cool. I'm very excited. We're going to have mini docs. I'm working on it. So I have all these meetings for things like that. Now that I've slowed down, I have time to do more things.
That's what I'm saying. Like other things, doctor's appointments, meetings, maybe something big happens. Like, man, I would love to jump on this, but wait a minute, I got 7 podcasts this week. Like having that freedom, to look out a little bit. That's great.
Then there's the burnout, the Zoom burnout. It's a real thing. I don't know if it has affected you yet. It makes me exhausted sometimes, just doing too many interviews, hosting Thirsty Thursday, which is another thing I do, where I hang out with people on Thursday nights and drink craft beer and talk about life and metal. Beautiful community that has grown there. But doing all these things on remotely like this, it is easy because I can jump out of my family and into my family in a heartbeat, which is amazing. And I love that. But I find it draining, much more draining than going and talking in real life.
Sure. It for me, it's similar. Like if I do too many, and it's too much of a good thing for sure. I schedule less now just because I want to give space and, respect the episode. Like, not be like another like notch, like in my mind, I feel like a lot of podcasters collect, like they try to collect guests like Pokemon. It's weird. Like they like have to get, these people for this reason. And it's not like a genuine curiosity. It's like, oh man, if I got that person, this episode's going to be huge. It's never that way. And you can't collect people. You got to respect people's time. You got to respect people wanting to come on your show. And I feel if I schedule 7 podcasts in a week, I can't fully engage with any of them. So I have to spread it out a little bit just for my own sanity. I could do 7 a week. I could do 14 a week physically, but mentally I can't commit to that much, and be invested. Some of these go 2.5 hours and are extremely like deep, like it's where I leave here and I'm just kind of have to sit in the car for a second, like, whoa, like what just happened? And others are just lighthearted and fun. And I walk out of here like overjoyed, but I always get home like satisfied. Like I feel like it scratches an itch. So I do enjoy doing as many as I can, but I have to find that balance like you're talking about. Like that's the big key, I think.
And finding balance to rest too. And it's okay not to do something. It's okay not to, that's being like an entrepreneur, like running our own stuff. It's hard to disconnect. And my wife being the producer of the podcast, every conversation can tend to be a business meeting. So we sort of have to find a moment to not be doing Vox and Hops.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my Sundays. I try to make Sundays a day where I don't do anything.
Yeah, that's good to disconnect. My wife has to hang with the kids when I'm doing this. So
exactly,
she goes absolutely bonkers. Like it's just like she's taking him out somewhere to hike or something today. And yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild, and being able to find balance, being able to find a commonality, all that stuff. Like you go into every one of them, you never know what's going to happen. I'm always nervous just because I don't want to waste anyone's time. Like I'm never nervous to talk to people. Like there's never really been a time I've been legitimately nervous to talk to a guest because of who the guest is. It's usually, hopefully this doesn't suck. Because if it sucks, I'm not going to put it out. And then I wasted an hour and a half of their time.
Absolutely.
So
I'm going to crack this awesome brew.
Dude, I saw that on your socials night before.
Yeah, I'm so stoked.
That's your own deal, right?
That's right. This is my collab with Overhop Canada. It came out last fall and they just rebrewed it because it was so damn popular. They're talking about making it a mainstay beer, which makes me very excited.
That's huge.
It's so cool. I love the brewery. They're just the nicest humans ever. Based out of Brazil, they moved up here into Canada, and they're killing it. They got their own facility finally, and that's how they had the flexibility to squeeze in an awesome collab for my 2-year anniversary. This is VOX&OVERHOPS. and it's a 7% double dry hopped New England IPA. We got Vic Secret Enigma Hops and Citra hops, and it's killer. Killer. I was there on Thursday helping them can it. It was super fun. Super
nice. Dude, I had my last drink in 2007, and that was, I feel not guilty about it, but like I had all my drinking years where I was so young, I was drinking like Pabst and, Budweiser and Henry Weinhard's and stuff like that, to stuff we could afford. And then we started touring, and it was shortly after that I stopped drinking. But like, I never really experienced the craft beer scene. Like, it was never so I feel like I missed a lot of things. But then also I live in the Pacific Northwest now. So like, apparently the water is a big deal on what makes beer great. And apparently we have some pretty awesome water here. And that's why a lot of the breweries here are so successful. But I've never been through that scene. Like, I've got out of it way too early. But for my own well-being. But like, I kind of feel like, well, shit, I missed the boat on that, because it was like, now everyone's like the craft beer thing. It's like when Starbucks started coming around, like all the coffee, like if I go to order coffee for somebody, I don't drink coffee either. So like, I have to read the text message to the barista, because I don't know where the first drink starts and the next one begins, or ends. So Dave Shapiro and I have a big joke about that, because I grabbed coffee. We met on the runway here in Portland while he was gassing up the plane. And I brought him Starbucks, and he literally sent me like a paragraph text message of what they wanted. And one thing they had to do, they had to heat it up, like steep the tea, and then cool it down to be iced in a drive-through line. So I had to be the guy in the drive-through. People were waiting 10 minutes for this drink. So I bought the person's drink behind me, and I was just kind of waved like, so sorry.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's in a very slippery slope, the craft beer thing. So if you had a problem, it's best that you're not involved in it at all, because it's dangerously delicious. Yeah. And beer has evolved into something that's gorgeous and sweet. A lot of the hype beers that are going on that are hooking people in are extremely high in sugar, and these pastry stouts have like chocolate and vanilla, and they're throwing actual pieces of cake into it. It's craziness. Yeah, it's crazy.
And there's more alcohol in it, right?
Yes, here in Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, they have a limit of 12% ABV. But some of the ones in the States that I've had, they go up to 15, 18%, and you'd never know that it was there.
Good Lord.
Dangerous. Yeah.
Chris was saying something from that one time on tour, saying something about Mountain Dew in Canada, like caffeine can only be in dark soda. Is that a thing? He said like Mountain Dew didn't have caffeine, just sugar in it in Canada, because it wasn't a dark cola.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know anything about that.
Okay. Yeah. It's off topic, but I thought that was crazy. Like, I love Canada. I love so many things about, like, food wise about Canada. I love the chicken chips and pepperoni and ketchup chips, like it's basically chips. But you guys got Trailer Park Boys is my favorite show of all time. So I don't know if you've seen that show, but
love it.
Oh, dude,
guilty pleasure.
Corey, Trevor, chips now, chips smokes. When I'm heading down to the LC, I was like, what the hell's the LC? But the liquor commission, or whatever, like, just like King of Donairs, all this stuff. I've been through Canada maybe 3 times, and it was always like jump up from Detroit, play a show, jump up from Seattle, play a show, or drive to Alaska. So it was convenience stores, and that was about it, and venues.
I've done a full Canadian tour a few times. It's long.
Yeah,
because you got to drive a lot to hit the next city. So that's why Canadian tours are tough. Especially Ontario. Ontario is so big. You don't even realize how big it is until you're driving through it. It's just endless sometimes. Endless.
Have you guys done Alaska?
I have never played Alaska, no.
Oh.
That must be special and different.
They
probably don't get a lot of shows, so they must really love it.
They do. It's you're the best band of the year when you come up there. Like, they get like 5 or 6 shows that are big. Like Ozzy would go up there.
Wow.
White Zombie, Pantera, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like big bands. But then I saw Fishbone at this little club called Gigs. It was one of the first shows I ever saw, and it was incredible. And I walked in, I was so young. I walked into the back room to go to the bathroom, and it was my first time at Gigs. and I didn't notice there's like a backstage area by the bathrooms. I went in the wrong door. And you've seen that movie, what movie is it? Black Sheep with Chris Farley, where he walks into the room and the band is all like, everyone's just stoned and staring at him. And he's kind of like, oh shit. That's exactly what it was. I walked in, it's all fishbone. The room was just full of smoke. And I was just like, this is real. Like, this happens. Okay.
Was that your first time backstage?
First time backstage, yeah. And
more exciting back then. Now we just sit around on our phones the whole time.
Yeah. Backstage used to be fun before camera phones.
Exactly. Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now no one does anything anymore.
No.
It's just hanging out. But yeah, dude. Yeah, you guys got to go to Alaska. You got to play up there. I don't know how big the metal scene is up there still. Like, I've been removed for so long, like 20
I've never
years,
heard
21 years.
Anyone going to Alaska.
Dude, maybe that would start it. You know, I know there's like a metal scene up there, but it's local bands, you know, but when a metal band comes up there, people freak out. At least they did when I was up there in the 90s. So it's been quite a while.
Why did you start podcasting? What really got you into this? You obviously were someone that always asked questions. That's why I got into it.
Yeah.
You hit it sort of like as it was exploding. 2013 was really when podcasting really exploded. You came in 2016.
Yeah.
What were some of your influences? Why did you start a podcast? I'm curious.
Well, it was basically, when I stopped touring, it was 2007, and I just got a normal job, started a family, and I was not soured on music, but I was just kind of done touring, and I didn't go to shows. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I'd been immersed in music so long. Like, I lived at a venue while I was touring. I worked at a venue in between tours. Like, wow. I just wanted silence. But then I had kids. It's like, well, that's out the window. But I wanted to do something creative still, because I wasn't making music anymore, and I just kind of felt stagnant. This weird feeling, like this weird compulsion to like create. And I was at work, and I had my radio going or whatever, and I was like, I'm going to look into what this podcast thing is. So on my iPhone, I had a podcast app. I clicked into it, and I just kind of started scrolling through. There's music podcasts in here. And I think the first one I heard was, maybe it was Mike Herrera from MXPX as a podcast, because I recognized his name. And then I looked, and he's talking to Chris from the Ataris. And I was like, okay, I used to listen to the Ataris. Put it on. I was like, he's literally calling him on the phone and talking on the phone and then putting it out. Like, I could do that. So I talked to my wife. I was like, have you listened to these podcasts? Apparently she'd listened to one for years. Just like two friends that sit around and talk to people in their living room. It was like called Keith and the Girl or something like that. So she'd known about him a long time. I didn't know. So then I was like, I could probably do that. But then I realized I didn't know anything about audio, because I was always on the other side of the glass. I was always performing the music. I never cared about producing or anything else. So I was like, what is it going to take to do this? So I reached out to like 20 or 25 people, friends of mine from the industry or people that I was curious about. And 24 of them said yes. So then I'm like, shit, now I have to do it. I don't have any of the recording equipment. I was like, okay, what mics do I need? What recorders? So I got the Zoom H4n and like a Blue Yeti microphone, which is cardioid and like, so it picked up everything in the room.
Exactly, yeah.
Which it took me a long time to figure that out. So you can hear everything. So yeah, I started knocking those interviews down, and then figured out how to host it and put it out. Just looking at YouTube videos basically on how to do it, and made it work, made it happen. And then pretty soon after that, Matt from this band called Emery, who he does like a bunch of podcasts, heard my show and was like, hey, would you want to talk to, Jabberjaw about this, the network? And Mike Maurer and I got on a conference call, and that was it. Like, he brought the show on, and we probably talked every day since. So
that's amazing.
That's how it started. And then just started to grow from there, and just being consistent with it for over the years, like people know it's going to be there in their catcher. They get used to your style. They get used to, you know, they like to see how you navigate, which guests you have on. And then it was basically like, I used a lot of publicists at the beginning when I ran out of like immediate friends. Then I kind of shied away from that. And now I kind of go off recommendations from other guests and, oh, you should talk to so-and-so. Oh, well, let's connect. And that's kind of how it's been going for the last year. I think I've used maybe 2 publicists for 2 episodes of the whole last year. Everything else has been people like, no, you should talk to this person. Okay. And it's been kind of navigating it that way, which has been really fun. Like a way to change it up for sure.
That's amazing. Definitely when I launched VOX&HOPS, the peer pleasure was absolutely one of those influential ones.
Really?
Yeah. Because, you know, your style, just being so laid back, open, listening, the listening factor. I listened to a bunch of podcasts before launching VOX&HOPS, and a lot of hosts talk way too much. They don't actually listen to what their guests are saying. And that was something that I really wanted to do with the podcast. So definitely I looked up to, you know, what you were doing. There wasn't that many back then. So now there's a lot more. Yeah. And the fact that you're still going is amazing. And then, you know, Jabberjaw, that was like a goal for me. I was like, I want to be on Jabberjaw. That was like, I make these goals in my mind to reach things and evaluate if things are working, if my plans are actually viable. And Jabberjaw was there. So when Sound Talent launched last year and Jabberjaw was a part of it, I was like, this is amazing. This is something is working here. So I was very stoked about that. And now you also teamed up with Equal Vision. I'm interested in that. How did that happen? What does that mean? Because I was looking at their website and it's like a bunch of artists, bands, and Pure Pleasure podcast.
So this is a really interesting one too. And first off, thank you for the kind words. And I'm stoked that we were an influence to what you're doing, because I love what you're doing too. And I had no idea until that Corpse Grinder episode that you'd only been doing this 2 years. Because looking at the episode numbers, I was like, oh man, he's been doing this as long as me. And I heard of the show through Sound Talent. So I'd seen the name, like the logo and stuff, but I hadn't actually heard the show until Sound Talent, which was rad. I'm stoked that it came through it that way because we're on the same team. You know what I mean?
Excellent group of podcasts. Very stoked about Sound Talent.
It's fantastic. Fantastic group and just awesome like family atmosphere. I really like it. But thank you for that. That means a lot hearing that, especially from someone else that's actually doing it, and someone from an established band that's been doing music forever. Also is a huge compliment hearing that from you. I appreciate it. So Equal Vision came. So there's a podcast called Turned Out a Punk with Damian Abraham from Canada, from the band Fucked Up, and all his podcasts, all his logo and stuff says presented by Vans. And I was like, I wonder if they're paying him, if they're just covering costs, or if he's just being nice, you know, like, so I was like, that's kind of a title sponsor, you know. And I was just reaching around like, what if I got a title sponsor for the show that would cover my costs if I needed something that I couldn't immediately afford, or, you know, shit, so-and-so wants to do an in-person in New York next week.
Fly you out. Yeah.
I don't like, maybe there's someone that could help with that. And so Dan and I have been close. Dan Sanshaw at Equal Vision and I have been very close for a long time. My band Anatomy of a Ghost actually turned Equal Vision down back in the day and went with Fearless Records, which is the biggest mistake of my life. But Dan still came to every show. He supported everything any of us ever did afterwards, because he's just a good person. Excuse me. So Dan and I have been working closely together recently because I had brought him a band called Glacier Veins from Portland here, and Equal Vision signed them. So when we were doing that, he started listening to the podcast more, getting into podcasts more. And I was talking to him like looking for a title sponsor, like, you know, how would I approach something like this? And he thought on it and he came back and said, you know what if we tried this? It's never really been done before, but I'm thinking this would be a good idea. And he said, what if you tell me what you need, we'll cover it, and, you know, we'll make a split. We'll promote the podcast like a band, because touring's done for now. So this is the perfect window to see how this works, because Dan really felt that podcasting is the next thing. Like it was already blowing up, but he felt with music specifically like it was the next thing, you know? So now for me, like my costs are covered, travel, stuff like that. Things like, so I have a team now. If I need art done, I talk to Alan. If I need web stuff done, I talk to Kelly or Laura. Like if I need business stuff, bad cop, good cop, whatever, I talk to Dan. Like I have a team of people behind me like a band would. Like Cryptops, if you guys have something going on that you need done, you don't always have to do it yourself. You can call the label. Mm-hmm. So you have backing for that. You have someone to bounce ideas off of. You have a bigger net than you had before to cast out, promoting the show, getting guests, things like that. It's a super interesting deal, but I've really enjoyed it. I also am in if you can see it, I'm in the Equalvision West Coast offices. That's my studio now, because no one's working here because they're all working from home. So I have a private spot downtown to record shows instead of in my car.
Is that what you used to do?
Yeah. I've recorded most of my episodes in a 1995 Toyota Previa van. Some in a 2008 Ford Fusion.
Kids are wild.
Yeah, exactly. So I would record wherever I could. The side of the freeway, in the parking lot of my apprentice hall for plumbing. Like I conned them into letting me use a classroom for a little while before class. I did Keith Morris from Black Flag in there. Like anywhere. Like you can record anywhere with the Zoom like you have.
Oh yeah.
And your microphone, you can record anywhere, dude.
That's why
you've done it.
Yeah.
People don't understand when I walk in for like an interview on a bus, and I walk in with like a little case or a backpack. They're like, okay, where's your gear?
Yeah.
It's in here. Oh, so this is going to be easy. Absolutely.
This is my
yes.
like a binder thing.
You literally put it in a binder with your microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And you can put a beer in there.
Yes, or a few, but yeah.
But that's essentially the deal with Equalvision, to where having the team, having the family, they also then have an in-house record or like advertising platform. You know, if they want to come and advertise on the show, they pay for it like everybody else, but they get a better deal. Mm-hmm. But they have it in-house. Like, hey, what do you think about talking to this band this month or whatever, records coming out? And there's a few I've said, no, that's all right. Well, I don't want to do that. So I don't have to take any of these, any of these things just because they're on Equalvision. But I've always wanted to be on Equalvision my whole life. I'm not doing music anymore. I think I found my place in music doing this show. So now I'm on Equalvision for something I did by myself instead of something I did with 5 other guys, which is, in my mind, is awesome. And I feel great about it. I know it's confusing to some people, like, wait a minute, you're signed to a record label or you're a podcast. But it makes sense in the long run. Like you can work a podcast the same way you work a band. And it's people I know and trust. And I can bounce ideas and know they're going to give me the straight answer. Even with sound talent, like Dan and I talk first, and then we go to sound talent. Even though Dave and I have known each other for 21 years, Dan and I always talk first because that's our deal. So we speak, and then we go to sound talent with a unified front on what we want. And it usually gets done that way, or we get talked out of it, whatever.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
What about you with VOX&HOPS? Like you were saying, you'd heard my show, other shows. Like, what was the catalyst for you to start? Like, what was like the moment
origin story?
I got to do this. Yeah,
it was my wife's birthday 3 years ago at this point. In April is her birthday. We just passed that moment. Mm-hmm. I was staying at home with my daughter for a year, a sabbatical from work. I take care of little kids when I'm not screaming for Cryptopsy. I'm an early childhood educator.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 100% serious. Yeah.
Dude, that's insane. I love that.
I'm basically a daycare, childcare provider. So I took a year off to take care of my kid, who was 1 going on 2 at that point. And we don't watch much TV with our kids. We still don't. And in Canada, the days get dark early in the winter, like 4 p.m., 3:30. Sometimes it's dark. my wife would come home at 7:30, 7 sometimes. So that's those 4 hours of darkness when I couldn't really take her out. It was long, very long. So I listened to just about every album on Apple Music or anything that I used to like. That's when I realized that I still liked nu metal too. So I was a nu metal child.
Okay.
And on that year, I went back and revisited every album that I ever listened to. So I listened to everything, and then I was like, let's check out these podcasts. I was a guest on the Jasta Show, so I started with that. Me and Flo sat down with him, so I started with that, and I just dug through it, really enjoyed it. I went to Doc Hoyle next, which is where I discovered Jabberjaw was through his podcast. Yeah. And then I went to what's Mark Maron's What the Fuck with Mark Maron.
You were on WTF?
No. I'm saying this is what I was listening
to. I was going to say,
Docs too.
Holy
Docs
shit,
too.
that's
Docs
awesome.
too. I was just listening. Okay. Going through, meaning just like listening to episodes and stuff. And then I fell upon Off Camera with Sam Jones, and I love his interview style. He's very well researched. He's extremely patient. So all that, I went out to dinner with my wife, and I always throw ideas at her, and she likes to make me happy. Find a way to make me happy, meaning like if I'm upset in life and I have no vision or project in mind, I feel like I'm someone that has to be busy. So I saw Cryptopsy doing well, but Flo had just told me that he was joining a band with David Vincent, and All Eat My Bassist had just told me that he was joining Cattle Decapitation. Chris, my guitarist, has his studio that's doing amazing, The Grid here in Montreal. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was worried that, Cryptopsy is still going to go around and be there, but I feel like I would have been worried that I'd be forgotten. So that night we came up with the name VOX&HOPS, the concept, everything. At first it was called VOX&LOCKS because I got really long hair. That quickly went away too. Yeah. VOX&HOPS. I always asked annoying questions on tour. I was like that guy that would just sit there and pick at insecurities because I had a whole bunch of my own. So I would always, mostly with singers, like dig into how they felt on stage and how they deal with when they know that they're not at their top performance and what they do. And I love craft beer. So it was basically just like comedians in cars getting coffee, except it's metal musicians in bars drinking craft beer. Yeah. And it started like that. And I did exactly the same thing. I reached out to all of my friends at first. I recorded 10 interviews, and then I launched in October. And it's just been rolling since then. And I think my first 100 were just friends and referrals. And then finally, I think my first was like episode 80 from a publicist was Ailstorm. Okay. And that was the first one. And since then, publicists keep hitting me up. Yeah. I have a few key ones that I love that I make space for. Sure. But the referrals from friends is absolutely the way to go. What's going on?
I heard you for a second, you're like internet. And I was like, wait a minute, I can hear you, but I can't see you. And then I couldn't hear you anymore. So
weird. Yeah. It happens sometimes. Actually, the first Zoom thing that I did was August Burns Red. And that was at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was a disaster, just the worst internet interview in the world. Just everything went wrong. Half of it was unusable. I think like a 40-minute conversation became a 20-minute conversation at the end of the day. It was horrible. And that was like my first one. I'm like, this is what it's going to be like. And then everything else went better.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, man. I've tried StreamYard. I've tried Zoom. I've tried, what's the other one called? It's like I don't know, the ones that record your local audio that are kind of cool, but say download this, download Chrome, download whatever, so you can use it. Just everyone seems to have Zoom.
Sketchy for the artists. Although now the Zoom, apparently, I haven't tried it yet, but I can make you a co-host, and then we can each record our audio on our own side. And then that would be perfect. I haven't tried it yet, but I want to try that, as opposed to, because a lot of the time I send like instructions. You got my instructions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of what to do. And people don't read them, or maybe they're not written properly, because they always try to record their audio with their phone that they're doing Zoom on, and it doesn't work. It doesn't.
I love that you put in there to use headphones, because people won't, and then you get that like kickback or whatever. It's super annoying.
And I've done a bunch of interviews like that. If there are two people and there's no headphones, so I can't laugh because then my audio's on their side. Yeah. So I've interviews where I'm like laughing, but I'm not really laughing because you can't laugh because I know it's going to drive me crazy in post after. But.
Yeah, dude, man. Well, what were we were talking about, you had said you were like,
I launched with
episode
Tam,
80.
yeah,
Episode
yeah.
80 was through a publicist
Yeah.
with the Ailstorm, you said?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then after that, like going through the word of mouth thing,
The best.
it's the best. Yeah, because people are more likely to come on. You know, it's amazing how easy it is to get a guest through word of mouth than trying for years, going the right way through these gatekeepers.
Yep. Sometimes I talk to like 3 people.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Like Randy from Lamb of God, I've been trying to get on for 2 years. We have probably 15 mutual friends. Every once in a while, I would like hit someone up like, hey, you should hit Randy up for me. And they're like, oh, I don't feel right doing that. And I'm like, dude, that's totally fine. I was just messing with you. But I would try to go through management, try to go through publicists, stuff like that. And it would never happen. And then all of a sudden, word of mouth, hey, it's who's asking me about this? Book it. There we go. Like Tim Bohr, book it. Okay.
Yeah.
And we get on and we became fast friends.
He's the best.
Now we're trading like book ideas and like things like that back and forth. I was like, dude, it took me 2 years to get you on the show. And after an hour and a half, now we're just chatting. It's the weirdest thing, dude. It's the weirdest thing. And if you've never been in a band and like, you know, gone to a festival and met tons of your heroes, it's still weird. It's still a weird thing. You know, where you look at your phone and you're like, I hope I don't lose this phone because people are going to be pissed if someone picks this phone up and starts putting these numbers on the internet. Like, it's terrifying. Like, to the point where, yeah, I was thinking that the other day. I was looking for a number and all these numbers kept coming up and I was just like, oh, like this shouldn't be out there. You know, it's a weird feeling. I'm a plumber that talks to people on the internet. Like, that's what I do. It's so weird.
Was it always remote? You did, I've seen some photos of you doing it in person.
Yeah, it started as remote. But then when I learned how to do it, like my 3rd episode was with Thrice. And I've been friends with those guys forever. So I was like, it's just supposed to have Tepe on. And for some reason, I show up to the venue. I've got all my stuff already. Like, this is back when I prepared. Like, I had notes and everything else.
Yeah.
And so I was like, ready to go for Tepe. And they get off stage from sound check. And Tepe's like, man, I don't know what happened, but all our press canceled for the day. Do you just want to do everybody? And I was like, fuck. Okay. So we went down underneath the stage where the green room is, the Crystal Ballroom. I'm using my Blue Yeti and I have it set to stereo, not to like omnidirectional. And we're sitting in a circle. The opening band starts sound checking upstairs and they have like 808s and stuff, like big stuff. Everything's rattling. So you can hear me, you can hear Dustin, you can hear Eddie. Riley's on the other side, so you can't hear him at all. Tepe's on the other side and speaks very quietly. So you can't hear him at all. And you just hear the sound check. At one point, Dustin picks up the Yeti on the stand and slides a piece of pita bread under it because he's worried the bass is going to come through.
Yeah.
We had a good laugh about that. But then I got emails like, that was the first episode that really blew up big because Thrice posted it to their socials.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When they did that, it crashed my website. But then I got all these emails like, what is going on with the audio? It's terrible. Like, what is this?
And this is for the world's first exposure to your podcast, right?
Yeah, on like a big scale. And so I vowed to get every member individually on the show after that to make up for that. And I've done that now.
Good for you.
But it took years to get it done. But now I feel better because like if you listen to that episode, just don't listen to that episode. I thought it was good. It was a good interview, but like there was a lot there you can't hear. So it probably sounds like a terrible interview because half the stuff you can't hear. It just goes quiet. But I left it up. There. I won't take it down. I'll leave it up there. People can laugh at my mistakes. But do you have episodes like that where you just messed everything up? Like you were talking about August Burns Red being an awful Zoom recording, but like have you had
end
like
piece of it is okay. I've had one that I've had to scrap completely, and that was just because me and the guest were far too drunk.
I love that.
And it's me and my bassist, and it's every time we go into the UK, my drummer wakes up the morning of and says, "Don't get you drunk tonight, because we got to take that ferry, and y'all got to go out. You got to show your paperwork. You got to be a proper, human musician that's not going to destroy their beautiful country. And every single time Cryptopsy rolls through that ferry, we're destroyed. So this happened. We were on tour with Aborted, Benighted, Cytotoxin, and we were going into the UK. And me and my bassist were a bit toasty. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, after going through customs, and because my bassist, sorry, I'm going to throw you under the bus here, was a bit too intoxicated, we missed the ferry.
Oh.
And we had to sit there and wait for the next ferry. So we recorded a podcast interview that never came out. 45 minutes we went. What did we talk? I don't know what we talked about, but so I had him on the podcast a few weeks after that. We had come home. I think 2 months later, I had him back on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I released that episode. And in the outro of that episode, I included a snippet of the episode that could not be aired. It was too much. But like technical side of things, no, there's like weird ones in the beginning where we're backstage and there's like an annoying fan humming the whole time.
Yeah.
That, when I tried to do the whole editing of removing the sound of that fan.
Yeah.
But that ends up just sounding more annoying. So I'm at the point where I just accepted it. And if it's a constant droning sound in the background, it's not so bad as opposed to something coming in and out.
Yeah.
But nothing that's been too bad, too unusable. I've been really lucky.
That's good. You never lost an episode, file corrupted or anything like that?
Nope. So far, I've been very, very lucky. Very lucky.
Same here.
Yeah. What about a guest that... Oh, sorry, go for it.
Well, I just had Jello Biafra from the DDH Kennedy's on, and I was like losing my mind because it's been like 3 years I've been trying to get him, and that was another one. All of a sudden, word of mouth. All right, how about Wednesday? What? Okay. And so we did it, and I got a new piece of gear, and I was recording on that, like the Rodecaster Pro. But I didn't notice I hit the multi-track function, so it recorded all 10 tracks, like full memory. And Jello and I went like 2 hours and 45 minutes. So the file was 16 gigs for the interview, and it wouldn't transfer to my computer. And I had to transfer it off of a memory card. Luckily, the memory card wasn't corrupted, but like it took me 2 hours just to get the pieces into my audition with enough memory left on my computer to bounce them down to one file.
Yeah.
It was insane. I thought I lost it. I thought it was over, and I was like, what?
That was not a good moment.
2 hours and 45 minutes of like me just like, holy shit, I'm talking to Jello Biafra. Almost gone, but we've saved it. But I was here till like 1 a.m. trying to get it together. It was fucked up, man.
At 5 a.m. the next day sucked.
We got it, yeah. And 5 a.m. it did suck, but it was worth it. I woke up and I was like, man, I still have that. Awesome. Okay, it's gonna come out. Yeah.
You've had a lot of white whales though. So are there any white whales left that you haven't nailed down yet?
Dude, there's a bunch. Like they keep coming out of the water, man.
I was stoked we got Chino. That's a big white whale. Yeah.
Yeah. Chino, that was a whole nother experience. Which continues to this day. Like that's the thing, like there's white whales, but then like, have you noticed the people you have on that you weren't friends with to begin with, you start to keep in touch with them? Like it's like like, I guess you could say like 213 episodes. I've been on 213 first dates, and most of them have gone well, luckily, to where, we still keep in touch. It's kind of a weird way to look at it, but it's weird how much closer you get to somebody spending an hour talking to them than you do for thousands of text messages or, email exchanges, It's the way it used to be, like in school where you say, hey, can I call you today? Yeah, you can call me, and if my mom's not using the internet, like, or the dial up, and you talk to a girl or talk to a dude for an hour, just about whatever, but you got so close to that person. And you don't have to do that anymore. And that's where it gets weird. Like with what we're doing, it just opens up these doors. But like, as far as white whales go, like Tim Armstrong, we knew each other back in the early 2000s from playing a few festivals and stuff and Warped Tour. We lost touch. And now it's like an enigma, just gone. We have so many mutual friends that work directly with him on a daily basis, but he just doesn't do a lot of podcasts.
Some
So
people
he's a
don't
white
understand it.
whale. Like, I would love to talk to him, you know, like, there's a lot of people that just, most of my white whales that I have not gotten to yet don't do podcasts or don't do like that thing.
Long
So it's
form.
more
It's the long
convincing.
form. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I text Lars from Metallica. I got his number from a buddy of mine who said, you can't tell him where you got it, but here's his number. See if you can get him on the show. No response. That was where I was freaking out. You had to figure out, okay, I get one text message shot at making this happen. What am I going to put it? Is it too long? Is it too short?
What was your pitch?
Dude, it was a long one. It was a long one. I was just like, dude, I was listing off like our mutual friends, like, dude, I'm not a creep. Like, this is legit. But you can ask, you know, these 6 people that have been on my show or know about the show, like, this is a real thing. I know it's weird, but let's do this. And nothing. So I made a promo shot from one of my promo shots, and I put like fake quotes on it. Like, one of them was from Kurt Cobain. It just says, "What else can I say?" Like, which is lyrics from a song. It's a quote, not about me, but or the best man, or the best man in non-media, Howard Stern. And the other one is, "I don't see anything wrong with eating chicken wings in the bathtub, Lars Ulrich." And so I'm just going to text that to him. We've decided that now. Johnny Christ and I, like, just text it to him and just see what happens. No explanation. Just like, what the fuck? Maybe I will respond to this guy. Who knows? Anyway.
That's awesome.
What about your
Johnny
white whales? Do you have white whales?
There's some big ones still. I'd love to get Corey Taylor.
Okay.
I think that would be interesting. I don't know if you've had him yet.
I have not, but I have ties to him. If you like, maybe the right path to take. If you don't through Cryptopsy.
No, Cryptopsy. Well, actually, no. The new bassist is a fan. I know that, so there is that road. Devin Townsend would be super sick. Canadian metal royalty right there.
I get requests for him all the time. Of listeners want me to talk to Devin Townsend.
He's
wild. I never reached out though.
Yeah, he's wild. I have, but it was the whole. I get the whole beer thing. That causes a hiccup.
Is he sober?
He was for a while. I've heard that he's back. I don't know that for certain, but I don't know. So I get that hiccup of the beer thing being an obstacle. So
yeah,
which is why I did sober February, and I do interviews with people that don't drink, like yourself right now. And we can have a.
You had Dave Shapiro on. That was a great episode.
Oh, thank you. The drinking is just an icebreaker.
Yeah,
it's just like friends going out and having a drink and having a chat. Doesn't matter if one drinks or the other doesn't. Some people are worried that I'm just going to talk about craft beer the whole time, as opposed to actually talking about the person I'm with.
Yeah, you should do. There's a couple podcasts I think you should do or connect with. One is called Brutally Speaking. My buddy John Beatty. It's BREW. Brutally Speaking. They do like craft beer and music, heavy music a lot. He's great, and I tried to get him on the network. It didn't happen, but I think you guys would be good together on your shows both. And then a buddy, Scott Bowling, who actually had Corey Taylor. He went to Corey's house in Vegas and had him on. But Scott he does like a YouTube. It's called Good Company with Bowling, and he does like a YouTube show where he flies you down to Atlanta to his house. He records a couple different people throughout the day, feeds you, has you picked up at the airport, brought to your hotel, makes it a whole experience. It's like a hobby for him. He loves it, and it's awesome. But he had Corey's wife on, I believe, or Corey's wife is friends with whoever does his video production, and that's how he got connected to Corey, and then actually flew out to Corey's place and did it there.
We're all connected. I love it. Just that 6
does
degrees
like all
of
the
separation. It's amazing.
Yeah, dude. Anybody in the world, you're connected to somehow.
It's amazing.
If you look hard enough.
It's amazing. And something that I've just recently, probably in the past year with the podcast, that I'm not afraid of hearing the words no anymore. The word no anymore. I'd rather ask and get that thought out of my head than have it sit there and be afraid to ask.
Yeah. But don't take no. Sit with no. Wait 6 months and hit him again.
Because
your entire life can change in 6 months.
That's wise.
You can almost conceive and have another child in 6 months. Close. maybe you didn't know you were pregnant and you found out 2 months in and shit, I have a kid now and I want to do this show, or think of what can change in 6 months.
That's wise.
Respectfully hit them back in 6. And I will say, this is not my idea. This is Darren Pfeiffer from Goldfinger has a podcast called the Dangerous Darren Show. And he was talking about this as his way. Like, he'll reach out. If they say no, he's like, cool. But I'm going to put a note on my calendar, 6 months, I'll hit you back. And he does that until eventually they'll say like a hard no, like, please do not reach out to me again. And then he'll wait a year and do it.
Wow.
Like,
that's persistent. I love it. That's hustle.
But that's how it works. That's how you work. And, maybe it's not the right time. And anytime that's happened where someone has agreed later, goddamn, I'm glad it happened then, because I was either not ready or things have happened in the meantime that really made it a better conversation.
Are there episodes that you wish you could do again? Something that you didn't go the way you wanted?
Man, that's a good, I've never been asked that question before. And that's a great question. I don't know. I will say the one episode that did not go how I wanted it to go, you may know, and I'll throw this out there. It's not a negative thing, but do you know Logan Mader? From
Name sounds very familiar. Yes, I do. Yes.
Soulfly.
Yeah.
So he was one of the original ones I reached out to when I first started the show. He was a buddy of mine.
Is he the one no?
No. He's not the one no. But the story goes, like, I don't know why he didn't say no, because, and it may be, we met when we were recording my band, The Burning Room, that I did in between Portugal the Man and Anatomy of a Ghost, was recording in North Hollywood at a studio that was in the same compound as his. So we hung out then and kind of got close. He was doing a record with a band's called Assassino. It's like super extreme metal. Dino from Fear Factory, Andreas from Sepultura, Tony from Static X. It's all in Spanish, and it is some fucked up lyrics. Like, it's brutal. They all wear masks. Like, it's like disturbing. But Logan was doing that record, and we came in and did some gang vocals on it because we were there. Dino kept shitting in the bathroom that was by the vocal booth in our so he's like, dude, just come do some. I'm sorry, just come do some gang vocals. So Logan and I meet then, and I hit him up, and so he comes on, and I'm all stoked to do it. Like, it's like in the evening time, kids are asleep, and he just seemed really not into it. Like, I'd ask him a question, and it would kind of be like, well, I get, like, he would answer like, why am I answering this question? Which maybe was just a personality thing. Like, he didn't mean to do it that way, but that's when I ended at like 30 minutes because I was like, I just can't do this. So I really wish it went differently. Maybe he was not having the best night. Maybe, because I love Logan. He's great. Like, and we can talk and have a conversation, but for some reason, when the recording button went on, it changed to like awkward interview. So I've never faulted him for it, but it's
crazy self-consciousness, maybe.
I wish, yeah, maybe. And I wish it went differently. I really do, but I still put it out. Because I thought it was there, but that's the one came to mind immediately when you said that, was like, I wish it went differently. But as far as, I kind of view each of them as their own moment in time. So I've never really looked back and thought about it that way, except for that one. It was like episode 15 or something like that. It was really early on, maybe 14. For
myself, it would be Dope Throne. First time I had two people on the podcast.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
With one mic, and it was backstage, Heavy Montreal. So this was like, we had 15 minutes, and I don't like time restrictions.
Yeah.
In the first place, but 15 minutes is very hard to get anything done. And they were very, very intoxicated.
Oh shit.
So and they sort of came across as if they didn't like me. So I just laughed it off with them, got through the interview, and then about a year later, Vince, shout out to Vince, wrote me privately and said, I just listened to it. I so sorry. We were, had enjoyed a bunch of beer that day. It was sunny. It was super hot. And, it wasn't our intention to make you feel that way. And so I offered him to come back on, and we still haven't scheduled it, but we will.
Dude, I should reach out to Logan and try to do it again, because maybe it was the same thing. But that one microphone, so you and the guest.
No, I always have two, one for myself.
Okay, but then,
they
were sharing.
and it always sounds like shit when they do that. So
yep, if they're wearing rings or anything like that, like it's clicking around. Anytime if you're holding the mic, like, that's
another great thing about these things is that people won't cup the mic.
That's a good point.
When I had Lord Worm on, Lord Worm, the original Cryptopsy singer, he was like, I hate this thing. I can't cup the mic. And then
What's probably one of my cup the mic for?
Because that's how he holds it. That's how in his mind, that's how he holds a microphone.
Yeah.
With his leather gloves,
Yeah.
That was my 1-year anniversary party. Lord Worm, live at Turbo House, 60 people, packed house. First time I did the first and only time I did a live interview. It was well, no, now I do it on Thursdays once a month, but in a venue. It was awesome. And I had set it up so that we were facing each other on stage. Yeah. And he showed up early and he came up on stage and he turned the chair towards the audience, his chair. And I was like, okay, we're in for a show tonight. And he was amazing. One of my favorite episodes.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Cryptopsy?
Since 2007.
2007.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Time is going.
I may not have seen you with Cryptopsy then. I've seen Cryptopsy twice, but I was working the shows.
Okay.
So I wasn't like watching actively. I want to say one show was with Suffocation.
I know of that tour. I've heard about that tour, but that was not me. No.
So my first time procuring weed for a band I wasn't in, just because I was local from town.
For Cryptopsy?
No, for Suffocation.
Oh, Terrence, of course.
The guitar player, yeah. And he's like,
he's another one. I want to get Terrence on the podcast.
Dude, he's great. And I love those shows. But every time there was like an extreme metal show, there was like 7 bands. Always. And it was just crazy. And every drummer has a rack.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, the whole venue was drums.
What did you do at the venues?
Dude, what's that?
What were you doing at the venues? What was your job?
Oh, so at first I was just a bouncer, like just security. And then I became a production manager. So I was the local contact for running the shows. So if I wasn't like in the crowd, like we had like a separate area for 21 and over, things like that, checking IDs. If I wasn't doing that, I was dealing with the tour managers and the front of house guys and things like that, and coordinating that kind of stuff. And then settling at the end of the night, that kind of business that I did for a while. But then I also lived upstairs, so it was
really, yeah. Did anyone have to drive you?
Practice spaces.
Did anyone have to drive you to the ATM?
No, because we always that was always covered. Like the guarantees were always covered. We were working with a promoter, Jeff King Banana here in Portland, that he always knew, like he was good to go. Like he never screwed anyone over, which was nice for me, because the nights I was there without him, I had to settle, and we always had the guarantees covered. We have driven people to an ATM though on tour myself. These were small shows in like California, or to their parents' house to get money. But I did do Sepultura's laundry when I was first starting at the club, because they're like, hey, if I put you on the clock now, will you go do the stage clothes laundry for Sepultura's in their rider? And I didn't take care of it. I was
in their riders. So that's smart.
Yeah. So I actually this was 2 years after hanging out with Andreas, like as peers doing music together, to then washing his stage clothes for $10 an hour cash. So it's like, all right, I've really
those moments,
poor decisions in my life.
Speaking of money, at what point did you realize that you could start making money podcasting? Was it right from the beginning, or did you go for a bit and then realize it?
I went for a bit. I went for a long time before I figured it out. I realized you could barter for things like mattresses and clothes and care products and like socks, like whatever you could. They're way more apt to work with you as a smaller show if you just say, oh, we'll just trade merch, like or coffee. We had coffee delivered. I don't drink coffee, my wife does, but like we had coffee delivered to the house from Stumptown Coffee for like a year. Every month, every 2 weeks, it would show up.
You would just talk about it. That's it.
Yeah, but then when Jabberjaw came around, then we really started looking into like, how can we make money from this? Mm-hmm. And that was where different companies came on board, like Merch Table and Rockabilia and stuff. And those were all deals I didn't see the specifics, because I was just a host, and it would just trickle down to me for however many downloads I had.
It was like a network deal. It was a network deal that.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a network. Aside from establishing like a group of like-minded people, the whole point of a network is to be able to sell advertising across a wider platform. So, well, this one show gets 5,000 downloads a week, but all of these shows together,
we don't have Rogan numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and no one does. But literally no one does. Like, he's it. I don't know how, but it's a great show, but there's a lot of great shows. He just struck early and was consistent, and he's great, you know? But yeah, Rogan numbers is like, he's like Led Zeppelin, man. He's like, you know, the Rolling Stones. Like, there's just not another, like, there's peers to that, but nowhere near where we're at. But you can sell advertising, like we get 100,000 downloads a week because we have 30 shows.
Yeah.
You sell the package and then trickle it down so everyone gets a little piece. That's kind of the whole point of a network, I think. So that's when I started like looking into that, was when I started to, I was actually going to leave Jabberjaw and go to EVR, Equal Vision, on its own. But then Mike was like, hey, we may be working this deal out with Sound Talent. I was like, oh, Dave, okay, well, let's see what happens. And that's why we did like the dual deal.
Because that happened at the same time.
Same time, yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome.
So the Equal Vision deal was inked before the Sound Talent because it took longer for the Sound Talent paperwork to get over.
It did.
But it all happened at the same time as far as working out what we were going to do. But yeah, what
lucky.
about you?
I fell into Sound Talent through Heavy Montreal, because Heavy Montreal is a huge promoter here in Montreal. They're Montreal's premier metal promoter. Whatever, any big bands come through, Heavy Montreal is the one presenting it. They also put on a huge festival in the summer, and I played Wacken, I played, you know, Summer Breeze, I played all the fests, and Heavy Montreal is up there with the best of them, just the best equipment, the best catering, the best sound. It's amazing. So I teamed up with them to start releasing some episodes and trying to get some guests to come onto the podcast, like some of their guests that had played Heavy Montreal throughout the summer. This past summer is when that happened. And they had reached out to Tim Bohr to try to book a guest. I think it was Clutch. I think that's what that relationship, which is one of the first Heavy Montreal Presents VOX&HOPS episodes. Yeah. And he was like, you got to talk to Dave. He's setting up a network, and this VOX&HOPS sounds like they should be a part of this. It seems perfect. So that's how I ended up on Sound Talent.
Through Tim?
Yeah. But through awesome. JF Me Show, who was talking to Tim.
Okay.
And then eventually I started having phone calls with Dave.
Dude, Tim Bohr is a gem of a human being. That guy is awesome. He's one of the best booking agents around, but also amazing story. But then he also has he's just the sweetest dude. So the fact that you have Dave and Matt Anderson and Tim Bohr and all in one, I joke about them being like the Jerry Maguire, where they're like, I say it
all the time,
dude. But then Dave will say, well, Jerry Maguire brought one client with him. We brought everybody. He wants to make that clear, which of course they did. Like, all right, we're going to leave and we're going to take everyone except maybe one client.
It's amazing.
Incredible to have that freedom. But then, yeah, Tim is just a sweetheart. And he's having him on it's awesome. There's just so many good people. And if people should listen to your episode with Dave, because with Dave Shapiro. My episode with Dave Shapiro was more about the launch of Velocity Records. So we didn't go in depth like you guys did. And I think your episode with him is much better to listen to get a picture of who Dave Shapiro is, because
that was a great
episode.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was a great episode. That was the first episode I heard of VOX&HOPS, because I heard of VOX&HOPS through the network, and I was like, oh yeah, Dave on. Okay, I'm going to check this out. And it was
I think it was important. I always like to show my listeners what's going on. I'm always very transparent about what's happening in the podcast my world of the podcast. So I wanted to paint a picture of what Sound Talent is, because I had just launched on it. And I discovered that I could make money with the podcast thanks to Sound Talent, because we were undervaluing ourselves a lot. I had done a bunch of stuff. I had done a lot of stuff where at first when I launched, I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't promote your band unless you're going to pay me. And they were like, well, we have no money. So I quickly stopped asking for money because I just thought that no one was going to pay. And then I did a bunch of stuff. Like I get, anytime the doorbell rings, my kids go, Daddy, beer's here. I get a lot of, stuff, product giving to me to try and to promote, but there's no money tied to that. So that happened pretty early on. That happened, that people wanted me to promote some stuff going on in the Quebec craft beer scene, which is awesome. And I love it. And, I need to drink beer. I like to drink beer anyway. So that fixes one problem. Yeah. But to actually make money from the podcast, really, it was probably in December of the previous year. So we've been just trying to think, me and Jessica, trying to figure out ways how we could be creatively engaging our audience and making it genuine. Because I don't want to just put ads for anything. Yeah. Sound Talent has pitched us a few ads, and I'm like, no, I won't do that. I'm not. Mm-hmm. It has, and they're amazing because they don't force us to do anything. Yeah. It's amazing. So we just want it to be genuine. We want it to be a true experience for the podcast. I very luckily have a friend that started a killer hot sauce company called Heartbeat Hot Sauce, and they have been sponsoring the podcast since January. So that's awesome, and I love hot sauce. So if I love it, then I don't mind having it on the podcast. So Heartbeat Hot Sauce rules, and I'm stoked about that. So I'm just we're trying to think creatively, more than just ads. Yeah. How the podcast can grow.
Are you guys going to do a premium?
Oh, yes. I want to talk about that with you. You just launched that. I will, but I don't think the time is right yet.
Okay.
I
respect that 100%.
I don't think that I have enough listeners, honestly.
Okay.
That's my honest answer. Because
what makes you think that, though? Like, what makes you look at it that way? I'm just curious, because
from the research that we've done, a premium account, it's about 5 to 10% of your listeners that will engage in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a lot from like, we can talk about what you're doing, what you're launching, because you just launched this, so it's super fresh, and I definitely wanted to ask you about it. Okay. But it's always going to be extra work. Yeah. A lot of extra work. So well, it has to sort of balance out.
You got to think about who's listening too. That's the other thing. A couple lessons I've been taught through doing this is who's listening. Like, if like, there's now people that listen to this show that were in my record collection since I was 13 years old, that listen to every episode and comment on it and let me know what they think of certain things. So when I do have a smaller band on or something, I know in my mind and my heart that they are going to get listened to by so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Ties into who's listening. But if, say you get like 100 listeners a week, which in podcasting is actually a pretty good number. 100 listeners a week compared to, if you think of all the podcasts out there that maybe get 5 or 10 listens, you also got to listen. It ties true to that. You got to think of who's listening. Who are those 5 people? Is it
That's true.
Barack Obama, Mick Jagger, who, like, those 5 people listening might be pretty cool if you get 5 downloads a week. But you think, so Matt Carter put it to me this way, and I don't know who put it to him, but say you get 100 people listen to your podcast every week. Say you walked out in your backyard and there's 100 people in your backyard, what that would look like. And they were just sitting there like, hey, talk to us for an hour. Be pretty fucking cool. You've done whack, and you've gone out in front of massive crowds. Massive crowds start to disappear after row 5. Like, you can see them moving and you can see them like flipping you off or whatever, but they don't mean, it's not that they don't mean anything, but what's really important is right there in front. Like, that's who you're focused on. So if you got 100 people listening a week, those people are, that's your people, and so I was always worried in the beginning about numbers, like, man, why aren't we doing these crazy numbers? Like, we should be, like, it was stupid to think that, but that's where Matt put it in perspective. Like, dude, you got this many people listening to your show. Like, imagine them in front of you. It's a cool thing. So that always kept me motivated to keep going. But so I was curious where that, because that's a good statistic. 5 to 10% are going to act on when you say, hey, you need to check this band out. You need to buy this product. hey, email me your thoughts on guests. Yeah. You can take those amount of emails that show up and do the math, and it's about what your listenership is. It's almost exact. It's crazy that that's the thing. Like, one person may be more influential than others, but it's really across the board. Like, that's how many people are gonna do it. So that makes sense. But I was just curious where that came from.
You waited almost 5 years before going premium too.
Yeah, I did. Like, I opened Patreons and stuff, but I never had anything to put in them. It was like kind of just like, hey, support the show. So people would support the show for a couple months and be like, oh, I'm not getting anything for this. And I was like, yeah, you're right, and put it out. But the hard part with the premium is I put everything out there in the show. Like, I don't edit stuff out. I don't have extra content. So we decided to do like the Zoom videos that would normally go to YouTube. I don't have a YouTube presence. So I was like, you know what, let's just put those in the premium, because not everyone's going to watch them. And the people that really want to, we can have them in like a private spot where people can watch. And so that's in there. There's the Past Cast, which is another podcast that I do on the side, where a podcast host and I will do like 2 or 3 episodes. They pick their favorite episodes and we'll do a deep dive into them and pick them apart. Like, how I got the guest, where I was, stories that came from it, things that came from it, other guests that came from it, what they took from it, lessons learned, things like that. And they're about 30, 40 minutes an episode. I think I have like 10 episodes in there now. But the best part is the way you and I work, you're booking way out, but you have the same amount in the can that I do, pretty much. So, but even though I'm booking out like week, usually sitting on 8 to 10 episodes. With the premium, the way I set it up, once I'm done with the episode, the video goes into the private Vimeo service, which then feeds to my premium. So like the other day, hey, Randy from Lamb of God's coming on at noon. By 2:00, you're going to be able to watch it, or you can wait a month and a half for it to come out. So people really enjoy that. Like, that's amazing, shit, yeah. He's talking to Randy today. Okay, when I get off work, I'm going to go home and watch that episode. So, and it's uncut. Unless someone asks me to take something out, I'll absolutely go in and do that. It's happened maybe 3 times over the course of 4.5 years. But I'll absolutely do that. But people get to go in and watch that. So that's the biggest comment I get is, dude, I totally just like checked out the episode you did today, So that's another thing. And we don't charge a lot for it, but it definitely helps. So and every week more stuff goes in the premium. If I do 3 episodes, there's 3 more unreleased videos. There's usually 2 more past casts, and then just the access. I mean, you get access to everything right there. You have my entire, not my Dropbox, because I don't want to somehow get that hacked, but you get my whole catalog right there, at your fingertips, which is cool.
I do think it's interesting just dropping the Zoom chat right away.
Yeah.
Because there's no work for you, extra work, really. That's
a little bit at the end of just like compressing it and putting it down and branding it. But like, that's something I would at least upload it to my Dropbox, so I know when I leave the studio,
you can get
losing the file.
Yeah.
And I can send it to Dan. Like, see, how do you think this episode went? But yeah, when you put everything out there, it's really hard to come up with premium content because everyone's getting most of it for free because it's on the show, and it'll always be that way. So finding creative ways to be somewhat inventive in the premium side has been a struggle, but I think we've stacked it with enough stuff that it's going to be something cool that's just going to continue.
I think it's one of the coolest ones that I've seen.
That's all, dude. Thank you very much. I hope you do it soon, because I think you guys could do a lot in there. You know what I mean? Like, if you think, not necessarily outside the box, but just think about, what your listenership wants, whether it's small or big, what they want. Like, I went to Dave and Dan and was like, we talk a lot about mental health on this show, like a lot. We get in some deep shit. And I was like, why don't we reach out to some of these companies that deal with, like, not necessarily, I'm rambling here, but finding what my listenership needs, not necessarily what they want, but what they need.
That's lesson number 1 right there.
Yeah. So like, let's reach out to these companies that could help these people that are reaching out to me with these very lengthy emails about stuff they're going through. Why don't we have stuff like that available to them on the episode right there so they can make that choice that they wouldn't have looked for themselves? So we've been trying to work with companies like that and figure out our demographic and be value added to our listenership versus trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
But, I just want it to be a one-stop shop where people can really get an immersive effect. Like they already know they're getting everything real, but to be able to watch it live, like what we're doing right now, a lot of people reached out saying, where's the videos? Like, I want to see this. Like, really? Okay. Like, and it works. Like they're into it. But like, I was like, you really want to see me, talking to somebody or listening to somebody for an hour? Like, okay. Like that's something they want. So we'll keep doing it. But yeah, so that's the premium in a nutshell for right now. We're gonna do a lot more video content, behind the scenes stuff. I do some Instagram live stuff like you've been on, you popped into, but I'll record the episode right there.
I was so impressed watching you do your intros.
Which is funny because I don't.
One take.
People, I guess, spend a lot of time on it. Like I figure I'm just talking to them. So sometimes you'll see me, I'll kind of close my eyes because I'm by myself in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just close my eyes and just like, I'll pick like one person out in my head. And I'm talking to you, like trying to keep it that, focused. And that helps when you're just doing it on the fly. But that's what radio people have to do, right? Like they have to get it in one shot. You can't screw that up, And watching my dad do it when I was a kid, on Thursday nights, just, okay, you got to be quiet now. Okay, boom. Hey, it's Big John, blah, blah, like doing his thing. And I was just like, all right. Like it was one of those things where it just kind of like gets ingrained in you, how to gloss over the flubs and the Freudian slips and whatever else.
I've just learned to, if I fumble my words, I just pick it up right away, right after. But you just repeat a few words before. It makes editing very easy.
Yeah. See, I notice people do that when I'm on other podcasts. Like they'll say, internet. And I'm like, that's an editing trick right there, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah. I just match the levels and export it and hopefully it's good. But,
What is the best piece of advice that you've received from someone else in the podcasting world? Are there still podcasters that you look up to?
Yeah.
What would be that tip that you got that really pushed you further?
The tip that got me, that I was saying earlier with Matt Carter really has been influential for me because we were really good friends so I trust his opinion. He's very honest to a fault. But what he was saying about like, it's not how many people listen, it's who listens. The biggest, so that's a good piece of advice. But the one thing I really learned early on is it does not matter who the guest is. Like it doesn't matter how big the guest is, I guess. It matters who the guest is, but how big the guest is. If you want your show to be successful, people have to listen to the show for you. Even if you don't say anything. Like there's episodes I haven't said anything. Like, because the person just goes off and I'll let them because I don't want to interrupt them. I'll chime in here and there, but there's entire episodes I've said maybe 4 words. But still people will listen to that and then keep listening to episodes. So if they listen for you, you're going to have a successful show because you're the one constant. They have to enjoy listening to you. Otherwise, they're going to come listen to Mick Jagger and they're never going to listen to another one. Right?
That's true.
So when I had my buddy Andrew from Fall Out Boy on, in my mind, I'm like, man, this is going to be huge.
This is the episode. Yeah.
They put it on their Facebook page, 9.6 million Facebook followers. It was viewed 86,000 times. The promo was viewed 86,000 times in less than 30 minutes. Insane. Like stuff started going crazy. His episode did less than Johnny from the Blood Brothers, who did his first podcast with me. Substantially less. And that is nothing against Andrew, but it shows that it doesn't matter how big the guest is if they don't come for you. And that flash in the pan.
Yep.
Holy shit, 86,000 people, viewed this promo and my podcast. They know the name now. And I got like 3 more followers on Instagram. Right? So it's that flash in the pan and it's gone. So that was one of the most important lessons, because then you're chasing all these massive people because they're in a big band, not because you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. And if you're genuinely interested, you'll never need a note. You'll never need a piece of paper. You'll go into it like genuinely curious, like you are, like you're the guy backstage always asking questions and like digging into things. That's not something you learn how to do. Like, you either know how to do it or you don't. And that's in you. So you can do that. Like, that's what makes you a great host. That's why people will come back to listen to the show. Not because Corpse Grinder's on, Of course, it's a bonus if they're into Cannibal Corpse, but they want to hear you talk to that person. They'll look at the guest list and say, oh, fuck yeah, I want to listen to him. What's he going to ask him about? They want to know how you navigate it because they're living through what you do. They can't go talk to Corpse Grinder. They can't do it, but you can. And so you're the conduit. Matt Pinfield said it, you're the conduit between the fan and the musician, because they can't do it themselves a lot of the time due to access or maybe too scared. You're that conduit. So that's why he said, even if I don't like the band I'm talking to, I have to be into them for the fan who's listening to them through me, which I don't have to have that problem because I want to talk to people I'm genuinely interested in.
Same.
I don't work for MTV. I don't have to just take this, but I follow those leads the same way, where you're that conduit. You're taking this listenership that's ever growing on a journey with you. So you have to respect that. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned is they have to listen to the show for you to be successful sustainably.
That's a very good approach.
What about you? What have you learned? What is your big lesson in podcasting through this for you?
Oh, that's funny. I always ask that question. I never answered it. I think just the consistency, the hustle, the work. I like to spread positivity.
Yeah.
I'm not there to get that headline. I'm there to talk to the person. And I've edited out a whole bunch of stuff that was too spicy that I wouldn't want to get out there. And I would want someone to do that for me as well. And then it's not per request. It's me saying, I don't want this to get out there. Guests talking about, too much illicit drugs or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's gone. I don't want that out there. So VOX&HOPS is about spreading positivity. So I think that's my main goal with the podcast. And then the best advice that I could give would be just to spread positivity into this horrible, negative world. And that's what I want the podcast to reflect. Advice that I've received, I haven't spoken to enough podcasters to, I think what you just said was probably the best advice that I just received.
Damn it.
Honestly. Talking to the human. I always talk to everyone, and I just still do the press circuit. So like the publicists send me artists, and artists are always so relieved to come onto VOX&HOPS because I'm not asking the standard questions. So I think that's important. I like to talk to the person. I think that's amazing. Everything you said is the perfect answer.
Well, shit. There you have it, dude. I like the integrity that you have, the work ethic and taking that upon yourself to pull stuff like that out. There's a whole group of podcasters that are like the collectors. They like to talk about who said what on their show. And it's just like, man, there's a reason those things aren't around anymore. Like now in the age of the internet, there's a big reason those things aren't around anymore. You didn't have to be sitting in front of your TV at 6 o'clock to hear so-and-so say this. It's already there. So I don't know if you do this. I know Johnny does this from Drinks with Johnny.
Yeah.
He sends the audio to the guest and lets them approve it before he makes the episode. I don't do that.
No.
But there's been times I've reached out and said, hey, you did say this. Do you want that taken out? And most of the time they're like, no, just leave it. I'm like, okay, but I'll reach out if it's something that sticks out to me in my mind of something we talked about, or
I just cut it and I don't tell them, and I just
okay.
Yeah, but I had Johnny on. His episode comes out in a few weeks. But I was very curious about him doing that, about sending the audio over, just being so, just let me know, I'll just edit it out. And it's very cool. It's very, very cool. So it's like sort of a huge safety net for any artist that he has on.
Yeah. He's been on the other end of it like you have, like in interviews, like constantly, like he knows a bad interview before it even starts, just because he's been through it so many times.
You're using for cryptopsy or cryptoposy.
Tell me terrible. Why?
Those I don't mind.
It's Germany or
the origin story. The origin story questions that get me the worst.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're in early childhood education and sing for a death metal band. Like it's amazing.
I just collaborated on children's books too. My wife wrote, and during the pandemic, wrote and released 2 children's books.
Oh my God.
And I collaborated on them. They're awesome. One of them is called Today We're Staying Home. And then we just released Hidden Rainbow. So I collaborated. Basically, we have business meetings when we're walking with the kids. Yeah. And she came up with this idea with her friend Jeannie Bond that she was working with beforehand. Amazing illustrator. So it was basically just reflecting upon family life during a pandemic, during the heavy lockdown was the first book. So it's like everything that happens in that book is what we did here, creating blanket forts and just trying to portray some like normalcy of the completely unnormal times that we were having. So they created the book, released it within 3 weeks, I think. They just hustled like crazy, got it out there, and then it took a bit longer for Hidden Rainbow because there was a whole movement of children drawing rainbows and sticking it on their windows so that you could see it from the outside. So we would go for walks and we would hunt for rainbows, like to motivate the children to move along, So, yeah. Where's the next rainbow? Oh, there's a rainbow. Let's run to that one. So from that, and that was more like about giving children the power to talk about their emotions, and through art, which is something that a lot of even adults need help with. Yeah. Which is a very, music is a very cathartic element. Art is a very cathartic element. So that book was to create a discussion about how you're feeling, and it's a beautiful, gorgeous. The artwork from Jeannie's crazy, and we brought in an art therapy person named Yenny Poon to help us also collaborate on that book, and it just dropped. It dropped early December, and it's beautiful. I love it.
Dude, that's excellent. I'm gonna check that out. HR from Bad Brains is doing children's books too. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's all over the place. This is great. Like these are
on myceliamedia.com.
Myceliamedia.com. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. That's awesome. I'll have to check that out because my kids, my son has autism, so he's almost 10, but he's like reading and comprehension levels are about 6.
Okay.
So we still read a lot of very like easy children's books. And my daughter's 7, so she's right in that area too. So
these are very simple for young children.
Yeah. I love these books.
The Hidden Rainbow book, I work with a group at the daycare is obsessed with it. And the educators do an activity where they like go through the rainbow because every page is a different color. Because it starts off, the kid is sad, and my rainbow is gray, and then my heart is gray, and then it goes through, and then like all the colors of the rainbow, and the kids get up and they have to go find objects in the classroom of all the different colors. So they do this all the time. They're obsessed.
Yeah, that's excellent.
This group at my daycare, it's super super cute. And I was like,
that's awesome.
my wife wrote that book. They're like, whatever.
They don't care about that.
They don't care at all.
They don't care at all. Your kids probably don't care. You're in a band, like my kids never cared. I've tried to show them videos and stuff. They're like, what? Whatever.
They get it. They understand, but they don't care. If it's not Rammstein, Du Hast, they don't care.
Do you have parents at the preschool that are fans of what you do, or that recognize you?
No, it hasn't happened yet. I have had a group where they were very protective of the mothers, and they Googled me halfway through the year, and they were passing around, because I never tell them right away. Yeah. Now I've been there. I've been working at the center for 10 years, so they see me throughout the years from the baby room up until the point where I get them, where they're 3-4 years old. So they know who Matt is, and they know that I'm a musician, sort of. I'm always playing guitar. I have like a little mini Yamaha Junior guitar that I'm constantly playing guitar, even though I don't play guitar at all in real world, in the musical world. But at work, I'm constantly playing guitar. So they know who I am. So this mother Googled me and like passed it around and was very upset. But it went well because I'm a good educator. They enjoyed me taking care of the children. So.
They got to be able to appreciate the both sides, like the both extremes. They have to. Like everyone has that other side,
It's the yin and the yang. It keeps me balanced. And it's especially extremely humbling when you come back from tour. And being on tour, you've been there, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Everything's about us. What time do you want this, or what time do I have to be there because this is happening for us, versus stepping into a classroom full of kids. I'm the last person that's important in that moment, So,
yes, the equalizer.
I remember playing Montebello Rock Fest. Cryptopsy was slated to. We played in between Marilyn Manson and Alice Cooper. And then the Monday, this was Saturday, and then the Monday I was standing, and every once in a while we have to do dishes at work. Back in the day, not so much anymore. So I'm doing dishes at the daycare, going, yeah, that happened, and here I am, and this is okay. This is life. Dude,
that's the one thing with plumbing, like guys in my break room or whatever, are just like, how do you do that? Why aren't you doing that anymore? Like the music. I was like, if I want to go into that life this afternoon, I'll go into that life for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, with whoever it is. Because they're like, who are you talking to this week? And I'll tell them like, holy shit. Like, yeah, but then I'm done. Like, then I can go home and do what I want. Like, or if I want to go, this is before the pandemic, but Tuesday I'm flying to Fat Mike's house to do an episode. Next week I'm flying to Mexico City to Heaven and Health Fest, like in the middle of the week. Like if I want to, I'll do it, but I don't have to live there. That's the difference, is I don't have to live that life for months if I don't want to. If I want to, I can. And that's how I kind of reconcile it to them, that I need both. I've been there, so I can go to work, plumbing, building a hospital or whatever, and don't have those what ifs. Like I know what I'm missing while I'm here working, but I can also enjoy what I'm doing here. So trying to be present too. That's the other thing is be present, but also have the yin and yang. Be able to be comfortable in both.
Falls into that balance of being present.
Yeah. I'm reading Marcus Aurelius books right now. So if you can tell the Stoicism stuff. Randy got me into Marcus Aurelius and the book that he was talking about on his meditations on Stoicism. And so I ordered it after the interview, and I texted him. I was like, dude, here we go. So we're jumping into that. So I'm getting in that mode in my head.
Dewey, thank you so much. I got my kids locked in a room with their mother. I don't have the Equal Vision studio.
I love it, dude. I'm gonna be going home right after this, right back to the chaos. This is just the quiet spot I can get to. My house is too old to do it in the basement, so you hear my son screaming, stomping to the floor.
I greatly appreciate hanging out with you.
Dude, I've had a blast too,
music. Man. Stoked to hang out in real life next time Cryptopsy runs through your neck of the woods.
Soon.
Yes, right after the apocalypse.
Yes, exactly.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You bet, buddy. Right on.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Now, this was an epic episode. What a great conversation. I've been listening to Dewey for quite some years, and to sit down and to be able to pick his brain, to get some advice from him on how he's become such a successful podcaster was a very special moment. I am so stoked that I had the chance to connect with Dewey. I'm even more stoked that he released this conversation on his podcast, The Pure Pleasure, today as well. Just so much good advice in there that I've definitely taken to heart and I'm starting to put into effect right now. Really, really appreciated the chat. Thank you so much, Dewey. If you have not checked out his podcast, you absolutely should. The Pure Pleasure Podcast is one of the best out there. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, such as all of the information for any episodes which I dropped throughout that past week, if I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, all of the information for any cool projects I have in the works, such as Vox and Hops' Brutal North America. Get ready for that. It's going to be insane. 23 unique collabs dropping all over the United States and Canada. It's insane. I can't wait until you guys start tasting some of these brews. You also get the links to the updated Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs. And, of course, you'll get the links to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is available on both Spotify and Apple Music and is curated by my man, Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself. So please do me a favor, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. There's just so much going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. I would hate for you to miss a single thing. I hope you all have a gorgeous, beautiful weekend. I hope you get outside. I hope you get to enjoy some fresh air. I will be back next week with 3 episodes, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.